It was 1 in the morning when the neighbor from upstairs hammered on my door, claiming a burst pipe was flooding their apartment and he wanted to check if we were affected. I reached for the knob, but before my fingers closed around it, the text exploded across my vision. Do not open the door. That's not your neighbor. Didn't the old guy upstairs go to Malaysia last week to find his second spring? And one is up there. I snatched my hand back from the cool brass of the door knob. Just then, the emergency alert pinged from the building's official text message service. Alert! Unit 1307 has experienced a major plumbing failure. Property management will inspect the entire line. Unit 1207, please open your door so we can check your ceiling for seepage. My unit. The scrolling feed rolled across my sight again. Who does plumbing checks at 1 a.m.? They're working together. Be a good girl, Liz. Hide and wait. Your true love hero will descend from the heavens to save you. I gave a curt nod, as if acknowledging the voices. Then I turned, grabbed my emergency climbing rope, and, to the digital screams of the feed, I shot out the balcony window. I was reborn. Last lifetime, I'd listened to these idiotic voices and lived a miserable life. This time, I'd rather fall to my death than become a baby. Factory. I hung suspended nearly 100 feet in the air, my fingers locked white on the window ledge. The heavy, frantic thudding against the front door was a drumbeat against my ribs, shocking me into a cold sweat. Why isn't Liz waiting in the room for the male lead? Why? Is she being so reckless? If Liz dies, who will the male lead have his sweet romance with? Go back inside. He will protect you. I gritted my teeth, rage boiling in my chest at the sheer, blinding stupidity of the comments. Last life, I had hidden, waiting for a savior. The result? Mitch, the man outside my door, now had smashed his way in, slashed my face, broken my legs, and brutalized me. Only when I was half dead did the so-called savior, Owen Parker, finally arrive. He heroically subdued Mitch for the police, rushed me to the hospital, and was the image of the attentive, caring man. He married me in my dazed, traumatized state. Everyone called me lucky. So lucky to have a good man like Owen marry me, even after what had happened. I married him and birthed 3 children in quick succession, living what appeared to be a perfectly happy, complete life. But the sweet romance was a lie. Owen had strong-armed me into marriage, seized my massive inheritance from my deceased parents, and imprisoned me in that house, using me as a human incubator. The truth slipped out one night when he was blackout drunk. He had hired Mitch. He knew I was alone with a fortune. The assault, the rescue, it was all a grotesque plot to acquire my wealth. Discovering the truth, I set the house on fire, taking him with me. But God, or fate, gave me a second chance. A rebirth. In this life, Owen Parker would never succeed. The cold air whipped past, extinguishing the fury and restoring a sharp, cold logic. I analyzed the building's exterior narrow window ledges, barely palm width. My only path was to traverse them, reach the stairwell window, and crawl inside. I focused, mapping the route in my mind like a complex climbing pitch. The massive crash of the door giving way sent a fresh surge of adrenaline through me, signaling that time was up. Go, Eliza, go. I bit down hard on my inner cheek and began to edge sideways. My fingers ached, but the 2-meter span felt like a mile. Just as Owen opened the window to peer out, I flipped over the ledge and tumbled into the pitch-black stairwell. I collapsed onto the cold concrete landing, gasping, weak-limbed, but an electrifying joy shot through me. The feed, however, was in chaos. Liz is so brave. She actually ran away. What about the male lead? Don't worry. Our Liz is a damsel in distress. That was just a fluke escape. The male lead will still have his hero moment. I scoffed at the idiotic comments. They called me Liz, but their loyalty was entirely to the male lead, not caring if I lived or died. the pure, unadulterated cult of the savior. Taking a deep breath, I kept low and moved quickly down the stairs while Mitch was still searching my apartment. I reached the ground floor, and my heart sank. The exterior security door was bolted shut. That monster had locked the entire building, trapping me inside. The irritating feed scrolled across my eyes again. Liz, stop running. Find a place to hide and wait for the male lead to rescue you. Why is a girl so strong-willed? Isn't it better to be a small, cherished wife in a man's arms? All you need to do is have babies to be happy. The male lead is going to be a future investment magnate. He won't mistreat you. I felt a surge of bile. With my parents' money and connections, any idiot could become an investment magnate. That wicked, criminal sociopath, a male lead? The feed's moral compass was utterly broken. The windows on the lower 5 floors were barred with heavy security, great snow jumping out there. Mitch would be coming back down. I had to run. Where? I forced my gaze away from the feed and focused on escape. Think, Eliza, think. An idea sparked. The old climbing adage, the darkest place is under the lamp. Mitch would search for me away from my apartment. He wouldn't expect me to double back. I started moving immediately, carefully ascending the stairs. I was breathless in the darkness. Every step cautions it was all a grotesque plot to acquire my wealth. Discovering the truth, I set the house on fire, taking him with me. But God, or fate, gave me a second chance. A rebirth. In this life, Owen Parker would never succeed. The cold air whipped past, extinguishing the fury and restoring a sharp, cold logic. I analyzed the building's exterior. Narrow window ledges, barely palm width. My only path was to traverse them, reach the stairwell window, and crawl inside. I focused, mapping the route in my mind like a complex climbing pitch. The massive crash of the door giving way sent a fresh surge of adrenaline through me, signaling that time was up. Go, Eliza, go. I bit down hard on my inner cheek and began to edge sideways. My fingers ached, but the 2-meter span felt like a mile. Just as Owen opened the window to peer out, I flipped over the ledge and tumbled into the pitch-black stairwell. I collapsed onto the cold concrete landing, gasping, weak-limbed, but an electrifying joy shot through me. The feed, however, was in chaos. Liz is so brave. She actually ran away. What about the male lead? Don't worry. Our Liz is a damsel in distress. That was just a fluke escape. The male lead will still have his hero moment. I scoffed at the idiotic comments. They called me Liz, but their loyalty was entirely to the male lead, not caring if I lived or died. The pure, unadulterated cult of the savior. Taking a deep breath, I kept low and moved quickly down the stairs while Mitch was still searching my apartment. I reached the ground floor, and my heart sank. The exterior security door was bolted shut. That monster had locked the entire building, trapping me inside. The irritating feed scrolled across my eyes again. Liz, stop running. Find a place to hide and wait for the male lead to rescue you. Why is a girl so strong-willed? Isn't it better to be a small, cherished wife in a man's arms? All you need to do is have babies to be happy. The male lead is going to be a future investment magnate. He won't mistreat you. I felt a surge of bile. With my parents' money and connections, any idiot could become an investment magnate. That wicked, criminal sociopath, a male lead? The feed's moral compass was utterly broken. The windows on the lower 5 floors were barred with heavy security, great snow jumping out there. Mitch would be coming back down. I had to run. Where? I forced my gaze away from the feed and focused on escape. Think, Eliza, think. An idea sparked. The old climbing adage, the darkest place is under the lamp. Mitch would search for me away from my apartment. He wouldn't expect me to double back. I started moving immediately, carefully ascending the stairs. I was breathless in the darkness, every step cautious, terrified of running right into Mitch. Reaching the 15th floor, I heard frantic footsteps above. He was descending. I pressed myself against the doorframe, praying Mitch wouldn't pause on the landing.
Clang.
The motion sensor light clicked on. Heavy footsteps approached from above. A thick shadow stopped on the landing, then started toward the door leading to the residential
Hallway.
I watched the shadow stretch toward me and felt a cold despair. My body trembled. Was this it? Was I caught already? The flimsy door was flung open, but Mitch only gave a cursory glance at the empty landing before turning to continue his search down the stairs, hanging in a wide-legged straddle above the door frame. My lips were bloodless, my limbs shaking. He didn't look up. I let out a silent, shaky sigh of relief and slowly dropped to the ground. Thank God for my climbing obsession. My upper body strength had saved me. I waited until the landing light went out, then crept upward toward my floor. I reached my front door, or what was left of it, and slipped inside, running straight for the master bedroom. I locked the door and scrambled into the walk-in closet, curling up amongst the coats. Only in that tight, dark space did a sliver of safety return. I pulled out my phone to dial 911, only to find I had no signal. Damn it. My heart sank. I immediately regretted moving into this brand new development where few units were occupied. No neighbors to call on. As I frantically tried to think of a next step, the sickening comments reappeared. Oh, good. Liz is using her phone. She doesn't know the male lead installed a tracker/trigger app. One call to the police and it alerts him. She can't escape now. Get ready for the hero's rescue and the start of a beautiful, redemptive, forced romance. A cold jolt ran through me, and I nearly dropped the phone. But I forced myself to hold on. I needed the feed for intel. They could not know I could see them. I climbed out, feigning panic, and quickly changed into my most athletic gear. I deliberately left the phone nestled under a pile of scarves in the closet. Heavy footsteps sounded outside the bedroom door.
I
Scanned the room and snatched up a heavy brass lamp from the bedside table, taking position behind the door. The footsteps stopped. Mitch's harsh, raspy voice sliced through the silence. Don't hide, Eliza Reed. I know you're in there. Come out now, and it'll be less painful. I stood rigid, lamp in hand, waiting to launch my attack.
Bam, bam, bam.
Mitch began slamming against the door. His voice grew, furious, laced with a familiar, toxic resentment. Women are supposed to get married, have kids, and serve their men. You non-marrying, non-birthing gold diggers are a plague on society. I'm doing a public service. I'm going to teach you how to be a good, proper wife and mother. I listened to his vile sermon, the ice in my eyes hardening. The thin door quickly splintered. It was about to give. I carefully released the deadbolt. When Mitch slammed against the door one last time, I pulled it open and flung myself to the ground. I timed it perfectly. As he stumbled forward, I swung the lamp with all my remaining strength at the back of his head. A flicker of triumph died immediately. The staggering Mitch somehow twisted, raising the claw hammer he held to block the blow. His yellowed teeth split into a sickening smile. Eliza Reed, you should just lie down and wait for me. He lunged. My jumping heart stalled for a second, then kicked back into overdrive. I lifted my foot and drove it hard between his legs, then spun around and ran.
Arg.
You little bitch. I'll kill you. Mitch shrieked, doubled over, staring at me with pure venom. He swung the hammer wildly, catching me as I scrambled away. I tripped and landed hard on my left shoulder. Excruciating pain shot down my arm, fractured. My face was contorted with agony, but I didn't waste a
second.
I crawled up and bolted for the door. The feed was screaming. Liz, stop struggling. You can't fight a man. Just surrender. To the male lead's embrace. He's waiting on the 13th floor. Just knock, and he'll open. Don't waste time. The sight of the feed, directing me straight to Owen, stiffened my resolve. I would die before I went to the 13th
floor.
Gritting my teeth against the searing pain, I stumbled toward the elevator, stabbing at the down button. You bitch. Where are you going to run? Mitch's bellow echoed behind me. I nervously swallowed as I watched the elevator indicator slowly descend. Too slow. I spun around and staggered toward the fire exit stairwell. I slammed the heavy steel door shut, twisted the deadbolt, and ran down. I ran and ran, my mind racing. The entire unit was locked
Down.
My only chance was to reach the second unit B, and try to escape that side of the building.
To do that, I
had to lose Mitch. A plan flashed into my newly clear mind. I spotted a stack of flattened moving boxes and cardboard debris piled near the utility closet. I have to take the risk. I sucked in a breath and charged back to the elevator, hammering the open button, my eyes fixed on the descending floor number. Mitch was close. The elevator doors opened. I ripped off my jacket and tossed it inside, then slammed the button for the lobby. I pulled my hand back just as the
doors closed.
I quickly pulled off my hair tie, dropped it conspicuously near the elevator, and dove into the pile of cardboard box. Yes, folding myself into a tight ball. Seconds later, rapid footsteps arrived, getting closer. Through a small gap in the boxes, I saw the thick shadow stop right in front of my hiding place. My heart hammered against my ribs. I froze, praying, "Don't look down, don't look down." Mitch paused, then moved toward the elevator doors, which had just opened on the ground floor. He let out a scoff of contempt, then turned and ran back toward the stairway aisle, pounding down the flights. When the sound of his footsteps completely faded, I sagged against the floor. Time was critical. Dragging my aching body, I reached the corridor connecting the two building units. The door was
locked.
I used my good arm to smash the glass window pane next to the door, carefully climbed through the jagged opening, and found myself in Unit B. I sprinted down to the ground floor, my stomach twisted with fresh despair. That door, too, was secured with a thick, heavy steel chain. I bit my lip. No escape at the ground floor. I ran back up to the 6th floor, intending to use the narrow ledge and my climbing skills to jump to the ground-level landscaping. As I reached the 6th floor, a door opened. A man in flashy loungewear and heavy eyeliner, clutching a bag of recycling, was heading toward the stairs. I saw a lifeline and grabbed his arm, the words spilling out, laced with a desperate sob. "Someone is trying to kill me. Please, you have to let me hide in your apartment." The young man was startled, but he quickly ushered me inside, throwing his recycling down. He spoke in a bright, concerned voice. "Don't worry, sis. I'll call the police right now." He pulled out his phone, frowning.
Damn.
No signal? Exhausted, I collapsed onto his sofa. The man, he's using a signal jammer to block calls. The young man muttered, "That's messed up." "Hey, don't worry, my door is solid steel. They aren't getting in here. You just stay here until daylight, and I'll take you to the station myself." I forced a grateful smile. "Thank you. Where's the bathroom?" He pointed. As I entered the restroom, washed my hands with cold water, the feed returned. The male lead is so smart. He anticipated Liz's movements and was waiting in this unit. Liz finally walked into the trap. The male lead, prepared a special dark room for her. The exciting, sweet, forced romance is about to begin. I stared at the comments, an icy dread creeping up my
spine.
My teeth ground together. I started to re-examine the man. His face was obscured by thick makeup. He'd casually mentioned he was a streamer, but there was no camera, ring light, or even a decent PC set up in the living room.
I
was too trusting. "Sis, you all right in there?" His voice, muffled through the door, carried a faint edge of doubt. I watched the shadow on the bathroom door. He was holding something long, a rope. In a panic, I cranked the shower handle, letting the water blast out. I shouted back, "Hey, sorry. I think I need a quick
shower."
"I'll be a minute." The voice outside chuckled. "Take your time, sis." The shadow disappeared. I wiped a stray tear from my eye and frantically searched for a new escape. My eyes fell on the window's blackout curtains. The rushing water masked the sound of my efforts. I yanked the curtains down and tore them into long strips, tying them together. I tested the knots, then climbed out the window. The makeshift rope was not long enough. It stopped just above the third floor. Dangling in the dark, I looked down at the lawn, took a deep breath, and let go. I landed hard on the soft grass, rolling several times and slamming into a decorative garden bench before I stopped. My entire body screamed with pain. I managed a quiet sob, pulled myself up, and began to limp away. Why is Liz so stubborn? Isn't it better to just enjoy being the male lead's pet? It's fine. When she gets to the gate, she'll find out the guard is paid off. She can't escape the complex. The feed had given me my next direction. I immediately changed course and headed for the underground parking
garage.
I stared at the empty, echoing space with despair. Those monsters would find me here. 5 hours until dawn. Where could I possibly hide? Heavy footsteps echoed in the garage. I saw only a few cars scattered across the vast space. Desperate, I dove under the nearest large SUV. I saw 4 legs approaching. Mitch's foul cursing reached my ears. That little bitch can really run. I'm going to have so much fun with her when I catch her.
Hold on, Mitch.
No fun until the wedding. What you're doing is a felony right now. Once she's my wife, you can do whatever you want. Owen's cultured voice was soft, but the icy malice in it made me tremble violently. The little fool hurt her shoulder and leg. She can't be far. Let's search the cars. I was flat on the concrete, watching their shoes as they started their meticulous search, even peering under the vehicles. As they began to approach the SUV I was under, the blackness of utter despair welled up in my heart. Was I really going to be caught? The thought of being dragged back, abused, and imprisoned again filled me with a burning, desperate resentment. If the meaning of my rebirth was just to endure the torment all over, what was the point? Just as I accepted my fate, I heard the sound of wheels rolling a luggage cart or a suitcase. A pair of elegant high heels appeared, slowly approaching. I cautiously peered out. A kindly, middle-aged woman, pulling 3 large suitcases, was walking toward the very SUV I was under, as if she were moving out. Hope surged. I whispered urgently, "Ma'am, please, those 2 men are looking for me. You have to help me." The woman was startled when I emerged from under the car, but she quickly took in the 2 figures in the distance. She lowered her voice. "I can hide you in one of the suitcases. Are you willing?" I nodded frantically. She unzipped one of the cases. It was nearly torso high, big enough for me to curl into. I scrambled inside. She zipped it up, leaving a tiny gap for
air.
Just as she was about to load the suitcase into her car, a shout broke the silence. "Hey, lady, what's in the luggage?" I was cramped and gasping for air in the suffocating darkness. Mitch's sudden yell sent a jolt of panic through me. The woman, Mrs. Delgado, responded with an annoyed
sigh.
"I'm moving. I have luggage. Is that a problem for you? 2? Get out of my way." "Oh, she's moving." My mind was hazy from the lack of air, but a faint alarm bell rang in my brain. Something fell off, but I couldn't grasp it. Mitch aggressively kicked the suitcase, slamming right into my spine. I bit down on my lip until I tasted blood to stop myself from crying out. He sneered. "Moving? This complex is brand new. Barely anyone lives here. I know the residents. You're a new face. I bet you're the rescue for that little bitch. She's got some nerve, calling for help even with the signal jammed." Mrs. Delgado's voice went cold. I said I'm moving.
Step.
Aside before you regret it. Mitch roared. Oh, I'm not moving. What are you going to
Do, old lady?
I want to see what you're hiding. I was frozen, listening to the escalating tension, praying she could bluff her way out. Owen intervened, his voice smooth and conciliatory. Please, ma'am, don't be upset. My fiancé ran off with a lot of my money and my friend here is just a little frantic. Just let us look inside one of your bags and we'll leave you alone. Mrs. Delgado gave a low, quiet laugh. You really want to see inside my luggage? Mitch scoffed. Is there something shameful in there?
Did
You hide that little tramp in a suitcase. Mrs. Delgado spoke slowly. If you insist on looking, Lil, show you one. My heart shot into my throat. Was she going to sell me
out?
The sound of a zipper being pulled open filled the small space, followed by a long, heavy silence. Mrs. Delgado's voice, now laced with a knowing smile, finally broke the quiet.
Well,
Do you want to check the other 2 suitcases? Owen's voice was hoarse.
no, ma'am.
But you are putting such a valuable piece of art in a regular suitcase? Aren't you afraid it will be damaged in transit? She chuckled softly. Precisely because it's art, I have to.
Keep it with me.
I have to watch over it myself. After all, it's quite priceless. Owen pressed. Is an art piece like that for sale, ma'am? What is your asking price? Mrs. Delgado took her time. A piece of art like this?
It's
Priceless. But the replacement value is at least this much. I struggled to make out their words. The stale, thin air made my thoughts swirl. I gasped instinctively, but it didn't help. My vision blurred. A distinct, metallic smell, the smell of blood wafted toward my nose.
no.
Was I going to suffocate here?
Why?
Why couldn't I escape this pre-written script? Was I truly destined to follow the path, marry the devil Owen, and be his human blood bag?
No.
I refuse. I bit my tongue hard. The sudden, sharp pain of the fresh wound cleared my head temporarily. I felt the suitcase lifted and loaded into the trunk, then the low thrum of the engine starting. It's okay, dear. You can come out now. The gentle voice was my cue. I clawed at the zipper, pulling my head out into the fresh air. I gasped, sucking in huge gulps of oxygen. Slumped in the trunk, I watched the apartment complex shrink behind the rear window glass. I couldn't stop the
tears.
I had escaped. My fists clenched. I had to call the police. I had to make those 2 monsters pay. Ma'am, could I borrow your phone to call the police?
I
Asked, still choked up. Mrs. Delgado kept her hands on the wheel. My phone's in my handbag, dear. Not convenient right now. Why don't you come to my place for the night? I'll call the police as soon as we get there. Hearing the suggestion to go to her home, I instantly reacted. No, thank you. The city center is just ahead.
if you
Could drop me off at the mall entrance, that would be perfect. After everything that had happened, I was hypersensitive to the idea of being trapped in someone's home. The 24-hour mall was public, always busy, and safe. Mrs. Delgado glanced at me through the rearview mirror and smiled warmly. That's a good girl, staying alert.
but a
Young ladies shouldn't wander alone. I'll tell you what, I'll book you a room at that chain hotel downtown. Her offer was so kind, I felt a rush of embarrassment for my suspicion. Thank you. I'd appreciate that. I'll send you my contact information so I can pay you back. Don't worry about the money, dear. She smiled. Soon we were at the hotel. Mrs. Delgado took me to the front desk and checked us in. She personally escorted me to the room, giving me final instructions. Get some rest. I ordered you a little food. Have that, get some sleep, and call the police in the morning. I looked at her, overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you.
truly.
You saved my life. After she left, I limped into the bathroom. My shoulder and leg throbbed. I quickly rinsed off and wrapped myself in the hotel bathrobe. A few minutes later, hotel staff delivered a tray with pastries, sweet treats, and a bowl of steaming porridge. I sat comfortably on the sofa, picking up the bowl. My eyes drifted to the room key card lying on the coffee table.
A.
Jolt, cold and sudden, shot through me. I broke out in a sweat. Hotels are extremely strict. You can't check in without a government-issued ID. But Mrs. Delgado hadn't asked for mine. I slowly lowered the porridge bowl. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to review everything. The inconsistencies, M.O.
Aunt.
Mrs. Delgado said she was moving, but who moves with an empty suitcase? And Owen. After seeing a valuable art piece in one suitcase, he let her go without checking the others? I had lived with Owen Parker for years. He was the most meticulously paranoid person I had ever known. He only would have let her go if something truly terrifying had stopped him. What kind of person could silence a sociopath like Owen? Then I remembered the smell. The thick, pungent smell of blood I inhaled in the suitcase. I had dismissed it as the blood from my tongue. But now, with a clear head, I knew my tiny mouth wound couldn't have produced that overwhelming, metallic scent. My fear intensified, settling into the core of my being.
I
hadn't been saved by a kind stranger. I had encountered a different kind of demon. The feed returned, confirming my worst fears. Teehee, Liz finally figured it out. That Annie is a human trafficker. This is her drop-off point. She sold you back to the male lead. Don't struggle, Liz. You are destined to be his wife. Teehee. Even if you were reborn 1,000 times and ran 1,000 times, you will always end up back by the male lead. As sighed his little damsel. The raw, unadulterated malice of the comments washed over me. I trembled with suppressed rage. Destined? I never believed in fate. I lowered my gaze, concealing the cold, hard decision that had just been made. If Owen Parker was dead, would I be free? I instantly knew my answer. I would rather be in prison for the rest of my life than be Owen Parker's prisoner and blood bag. A cold resolve filled my eyes. I walked to the balcony, staring at the tiny figures below, and tossed a crumpled tissue paper onto the pavement. After a long while, I returned to the room. I busied myself, setting up my trap, then climbed into bed and closed my eyes, feigning sleep. The room was silent, save for the rhythmic tick-tock of the clock. Just before dawn, I heard the faint snick of the electronic door lock engaging. My hand, hidden beneath the sheets, clenched tightly around my weapon. Soft footsteps approached the bed. I felt a shadow looming over me. Owen's voice, a soft, sickening whisper, reached my ears. My Eliza, I finally have you. From now on, everything you are is mine. Even in death, you will be buried beside me. I forced myself to remain still through the surge of nausea. The moment he reached down to pull back the duvet and climb onto the bed, I snapped my eyes open. The small fruit knife I held in my hand shot out. Owen screamed, clutching his forearm. He glared at me, the hatred in his eyes thick enough to touch. You were pretending to sleep? I gave a cold laugh. How else was I going to lure you? Close. He scrambled off the bed, his face a mask of fury.
You
think a cheap steak knife can kill me? Keep dreaming. He lunged for a corner chair, lifting it above his head to smash it down on me. I knew I couldn't fight his strength. I dodged his attack with a swift move and smiled, a chilling, final smile.
Die.
I flung the fruit knife. It didn't hit him, but sliced through a seemingly insignificant, thin wire I had attached to the
wall.
The massive, decorative crystal chandelier above the bed detached from the ceiling and crashed down directly onto Owen Parker. He crumpled, not even a sound escaping him, his head covered in blood. I sank onto the floor, gasping for breath, flooded with a joyous, terrifying sense of survival. Seconds later, the door was kicked open. Uniformed officers stormed in. Police. Don't move. They stared from the bloody mess of the chandelier-trapped body to me, huddled in the corner. They didn't hesitate. They cuffed me. At the police station, I gave my statement, telling them the complete truth. After recording my testimony, I was released. A female officer drove me to the hospital for treatment, smiling kindly. Don't worry, based on the scene and your testimony, this is a clear-cut case of self-defense.
No.
Charges will be filed. And that man, Owen Parker, he was a high-priority nation fugitive. He used plastic surgery to evade capture for
years.
Honestly, you helped us bring down a major player.